Okay, hello everybody. Today the topic is rage, rage the fire. Right, so I'm gonna be reading and talking. So, why the oldest weapon in your brain only works on things weaker than you, and why pointing it at something that cannot be beaten burns down everything except the obstacle. It's quite an important thing to understand. So, first definition of rage. I've got a few angles that pull apart what usually gets blurred. So, first one is plain, or rage is the brain's response to a blocked goal or thing taken, not to danger. Fear answers threat, rage answers an obstacle. Yeah, the last time it was fear. Now it's rage, because fear, you run away, and rage, you get rid of the obstacle. You get rid. So that's the main difference. And of course, the feelings are different. However, we can say both of them are negative emotions because we don't really like to experience rage or fear. There are more pleasant emotions. From neuroscience perspective, an evolved emotional system running on a conserved circuit, medial amygdala, medial hypothalamus, dorsal periaqueductal gray, and that drives effective attack, the impulse to remove an obstacle by force. Psychological part, rage with anger. Rage is the raw circuits, um, electricity and chemistry, no story attached. Uh, Anger is that circuit after the cortex gives it a target and a narrative and a verdict of unfairness. Rage is the engine, anger is the engine plus a grievance. Right. So, like, rage is the immediate reaction where you see something and you are getting ready to fight because you see the thing is relatively weaker than you, or you are maybe that brave that you think that. Fear, you just getting scared and decide to run away because there is no chance to win. Right, so next one, rage in comparison of predatory attack. So hunting itself is quiet, cold, patient, focused, and that is seeking emotion, not rage. Rage is hot, loud, explosive, and blind. Calm aggression is not this system. Like, calm aggression is not rage, right? So, uh, where it misfires, where it misfires at anything that cannot be beaten, reached, or was never an agent at all. A policy, an institution, a queue, a stranger who will never read your reply, a machine, your own body, and the past, right? So, you know, well, the idea is like you can't really get angry at your past, right? Because it passed, so you can't remove it. You can forget it, but you can't remove it, right? So, mechanical frame. Mechanical frame is rage evolved to correct someone weaker. It only works downhill when you can't win, and this is really important difference. You have to have the ability to win, otherwise there is no point to be angry. Cause, but for that, it's going to be enough emotion. Most of what actually blocks a modern life is not below you in any hierarchy, and a great deal of it is not at somebody at all, otherwise we would kill each other. Pointed there, the oldest weapon in your brain has nowhere useful to go, and every route it takes costs you something, and the obstacle never pays. So what that means is, for example, you're getting your rage on the road, for example, and you can't do anything about it, so all you get is just stress. How to get rid of that? Yeah, road rage, for example. Or sometimes people jump out of cars and fight, but doesn't look like a good idea to me. Okay, going further. Right. When did you last want to hit something that could not be hit? When was it? Do you remember? Where's my pencil? Oh, there. Could not be hit. We have been building an engine and the brake. So seeking is the gas moving forward. The dopamine motor that falls in love with the chase. Flow state is an example. Fear is the brake, the alarm that throws you backward before you finish thinking. Right? So you see something scary and you stop and jump away. And we left fear on a cliffhanger. It's three outputs: freeze, fly, and freeze, flight, and only when the first two are cut off, then fight, when we don't have any other choice. That's the door we walk through this week. When the alarm is cornered and there is nowhere to run, fear hands the controls to the system we have been circling from the start. So Panksepp call it rage, right? It is older than reason, hotter than thoughts, and in a little full of walls that cannot be pushed. It is the system that makes you shout at the machine, at somebody who had nothing to do with it. Right, so where is our image there? Right, a few images there. There you go. Yeah, so you see there you got seeking is hunting, or I don't know what else, picking berries, whatever. Fear, when we see the snake, right, and we react immediately, or a woman says a mouse, right, jumps on the first chair and screaming as mum. And then rage when we have to confront, so right, I have to know how to use it. Okay, so the system: a wall, not a threat. A wall. Fear fires at danger. Rage fires at a wall. This is the one distinction that unlocks everything else. The trigger is not a threat, it is thwarting a goal, blocked, a thing taking, a body cornered with no exit. If you can trace the spike back to frustration rather than fright, you are in rage. So yeah, so you were expecting something, you are not getting it, and you are getting frustration and ability to take it back. So here you go, you got rage in you. So mechanically it runs on an ancient pathway. I will show you how ancient in a minute. Medial amygdala into the medial hypothalamus into the dorsal periquadratal gray, and we we know it is a dedicated circuit and not a mood, right? So you're not getting angry because like I don't know what, it's just like the brain is commanding your internal agents to feel that way based on stimuli it receives. So stimulate the hypothalamic attacks on electrically, and an animal attacks on the instant, lesion it, and the aggression vanishes. So that means there is a bulb in the brain, and when that bulb lights up, then we feel something. So we can put the wire there, and have a button, and press that button, and aggression sparks. Hess did it in cats in 1920s, quite a long time ago now. Modern labs light it up with optogenetics in mice and switch attack on and off like a lamp. There is a button and the world can press it. Again, a little off top there. So basically the way it works is your brain. Is your brainstem, the old one with the amygdalas and stuff, right? Eyes, right? Mouse eyes, wherever. Getting stimuli there, a wall, wherever. Stimuli goes inside of the brain, and the bulb is on, right? And the aggressive response is on as well. The same thing as doing the put wire there, right, in that place there, press button, right, do electric shock, and the same reaction follows. So what that means is there is a particular part of the brain which is getting stimulated by different factors. One of them is immediate interpretation of stimuli received through different senses. Right, so rage. Right. Okay. Its signs are easy to read once you know the direction to look. Rage is the toward emotion, right? When cat is attacking, it is just like jumping on you, tries to bite. Hot, not cold. Blood to face, temperature up, fear runs pale and cold, right? Rage runs red and hot, right? When you fear something, your face goes white. When you are in rage, you are becoming one tomato. Swelling, not shrinking. Chest expands, posture squares up, jaw sets, hands locked forward. Fear makes you small, rage makes you big. And a cat turns sideways, bends back, right? So tail up, like that, right? So it occupies more space to look bigger when cat has rage reaction. So something like that. Toward the obstacle, not away. So it fights back, it doesn't run away. The whole body learns to strike, approach, not retreat. Explosive on, fast, burn out, it flares in a second and exhausts quickly, unlike resentment, which smolders. Tunnel onto the target, cortex offline. Cortex offline, yeah, obviously. The world collapses to one thing in your way, and planning drops out and feels justified in the moment and stupid 5 minutes later. Right, yeah. So of course, because like brain is off, brain goes on vacations, right? So you can't really plan and you can't really foresee consequences of the rage sparks. And when you realize what happened, usually it's quite late. Right? Fear runs cold, moves away. Rage runs hot and moves toward. Yeah, so you get later why it's important to understand, because like once we learn how to recognize those emotions in us, then it becomes quite easy to manipulate ourselves, right? And others. Imagine you would be able to invoke rage emotion in others. That would be fun, innit? What was it? Why is it not moving? Oh, like that, yeah. Okay, so keep those apart, or the whole thing turns to mush. Mush. Okay, rage is the circuit, anger is the story wrapped around it. Rage has no who and no why. It is the raw output of the hypothalamic pathway shared with animals, like have no language to blame anyone with. Anger is what happens a half second later when the cortex gets hold of the spike and hands it a target, a cause, a verdict. He did this to me deliberately. This motherfucker did to me. It was deliberate. Someone will pay. You know, the circuit is blameless and automatic. The narrative is optional, and it is the narrative, not the circuit, that does the damage. So, yeah, the difference is, like, for example, somebody steps on your toe, and then you start feeling, yeah, first is rage, uh, because of a, because of pain, for example. But then second thought is he wanted to do that, and he would probably enjoy seeing me suffering. And this gives that those thoughts are giving you the feelings, following feelings, like and wish to have a revenge. This matters because you cannot stop the circuit from firing, and you can't refuse handed a story, right? A jump door is a blocked goal. It is not an insult, yeah, because door doesn't have an intent. And notice what the story has to smuggle in to work at all: an agent and an intention, right? So this is what I mean. Like, in order to have anger, it has to be somebody who wanted to do you something bad, right? Let me clear that a bit. Okay. No, no, no. Okay, like that. Okay. Agent and intention. Anger cannot run on obstacle, right? It needs somebody who meant it, and this is really important thing, right? So that means somebody there is sitting and thinking about how to, yeah, knock you down, right? Which is why the cortex will manufacture one out of the delayed train, a piece of software or a stranger who has no idea you exist, because without somebody the circuit has nothing to be about, right? So if somebody is trying to do you bad, there is no anger target, so to speak. Right, now rage is the body trying to remove an obstacle. Anger is the mind deciding that somebody put it there on purpose and with malice. Only one of those two you can put down, right? Yeah, it's quite hard to do one. Okay, it's good. It's good. Now, interesting evolutionary part. Again, I'm getting back to the evolution over and over again because it's really interesting to understand that there's some feelings, if we feel them, and other animals uh, with less sophisticated neural systems also felt all that. So that means it's just quite a powerful thing, and it's there for a reason, and there are particular mechanics behind it, because like to me, from engineering background, everything has a purpose and built for something, and once you understand the mechanics, it's easier then to manipulate it. Now, older than the lizard, right? Good beginning, innit? Rage is not a human flaw layer on the top of reason. It is a vertebrate heirloom, and the machinery is roughly 500 million years old. It's quite old, no? Well, monkeys are 2 million. Oh, no, wait a second, wait. Human beings like 2 million old. Monkeys themselves is 50 million or something, so it's like the monkeys, it's just 1/10 of entire age period. So the hypothalamus and the periodactyl gray exist in every vertebrate: fish, frogs, lizards, crocodiles, birds, and us. A cornered crocodile, gaping and lunging, is running the homologous hardware to yours and look alike. When you rage at locked door, you fire the same module a cornered lizard fires. So two clarifications worth putting on the board because both are counterintuitive. A crocodile hunting is not rage again, like it's a seeking thing, obviously. A quiet, patient predation is seeking, cold shopping, not fury. Only the coherent territorial defensive croc is in rage, right? When they fight for the crocodile woman, for example, aggression splits into two systems, and hunting belongs to the other one. Right. Insects fight, but it is not the same fire. Fruit flies brawl over territory. Crickets have been fought as a sport for 1,000 years, but insects have no hypothalamus and no amygdala. Their aggression is convergent, a, a different machine solving the same problem, not the circuit you inherited or us inherited. The one shared thread is a aggression chemical. Octopamine, the invertebrate cousin of noradrenaline, right? So that's for insects, octopamine, and we've got noradrenaline. Tunes that aggression way, turns ours. Yeah. So getting back down to chemicals, as usual. Right, here's the ruler. Just, there, my favorite ruler. There, right. So you see, we are here, and rage is there, and all rage there. However, it says like the chemicals are similar, so I think and suspect that it was, let's say, chemical X, and it followed there, and then vertebrates, it needed a bit sophistication, so to speak, and I guess like X plus CH whatever too, and that's different chemical, and that means but the base is the same, and it was working the same even there, where only insects or crabs lived. So what that means is like it's quite an old thing, isn't it? It's quite, and that means like if it's that old, it's quite hard to fight it. So that's just an excuse, isn't it? Yeah, but I love it. Like if it's old to fight, that means like we have to be aware that it's not. Okay, let's go further. Put two lineages on one ruler, and the shape of the climb becomes visible. Nervous systems are older than the circuit. Neurons arrived around 700 million years ago, and carry nothing like this, the circuit appears with the first vertebrates around 500 million, and from that point simply never leaves. Yeah, because it was quite useful, isn't it? You can't run away all the time, you can't be scared all the time, you have to fight back once in a while. So one continuous red band through fish, amphibians, reptiles, crocodiles, birds, and us insect. Aggression starts later and on a different track. Okay, I was wrong with that one. So just convergence. And the gap between the two bands is the whole point. Those are two machines, not one machine twice. And not the proportions, because they set up everything in the last section. The circuit has been running for 500 million years ago. The cortex that turns into anger, that supplies the target, the intent, the verdict, had been available only for 2 million. Yeah, I think cortex is a bit older than that. Let me quickly double check it, because hang on. How long the cortex? How long the cortex? How long? No. How long ago the cortex has appeared in terms of evolution? Why? You see what? I've got an idea. I don't want to say it, but I think. Okay. Well, 3 million years ago, we got the human cortex, so to speak. But like dogs and lions and all others are quite smart as well to sort of have sophisticated thoughts about fights and stuff, right? So I would probably think about that. It's not two. Two is just when we can create verbal explanation why we hate each other, right? So, but in terms of when it appeared longer ago. And kill one myth on the way past, the popular. Reptilian brain equals rage. Idea is the triune brain is outdated and wrong. Yeah, I found that. Aggression is not a primitive lizard core buried under your intellect. It is a circuit you share with lizards, evolved in parallel, not law of law, and your own skull. The correct version is the better story anyway. This is not your inner reptile. It's 500 million year old, so before reptiles actually, tool, and you and the crocodile both still carry. You did not invent rage. You cannot uninstall it. You inherit it from something that had no words to argue with and nothing to regret in the morning. Uh, Especially if you don't have a memory capacity to remember when you've done something bad, then problem goes away, innit? Right. Okay, so we got the following one. The status gate only works downhill. Yeah, this is quite an important thing to point out about rage and aggression and stuff, right? So here is the hidden rule that makes rage make sense and makes it dangerous in a world of walls. Rage is not unconditional, right? It is permission by winnability. Before the circuit fully discharges, the brain runs a fast dump appraisal. Can I actually beat this thing? The same triggers routes to the opposite outcome depending on the answer. Right? So if you come here, I would probably have to run away. Put the gate on ring and stop being special rule. The loop gave us the machine, the agent in the middle, 7 stages around it, and the stage setting between the feeling and the pool where the agent forecasts where the relief is actually reachable. That stage is where the get lives. Can I beat this? This is expectation, and every one of outcomes become decided by what that single leg returns. Or I'll get back to you. It's not only can I beat it or not, some other things, but let's get further. Taking by something weaker, winnable. Rage fires and discharges cleanly. The upstart overstepped. You can punish it. You can do, and the circuit switches off. This is the correct and subordinate. Restore the hierarchy function. Hot, fast resolve. This is the only condition rage was built for. Right, okay. So moving forward again, and I'm gonna show you my schema, favorite schema, which is working everywhere for all emotions and all behaviors, even if we like to correct homeostasis, but for now, case there. Right, okay, so yeah, so regarding the expectations, I would probably talk more here. So let's say there's a prediction shift, yeah. Whereas prediction shift is like an obstacle, right? So okay, feeling bad about it. How come? Who do you think you are and stuff? And the expectation here for rage is remove it, right? Remove it. I don't like this type of behavior towards me. I don't like if you're taking my things. I don't like this and that. Now, expectation is to stop it, right? Stop it. So, in other words, the hang on. Right. So expectation is right. Expectation is the future without the obstacle, right? So this is quite important. So bad emotion, right, like negative emotion, let's say unpleasant emotion of rage, is designing the future in which rage would be gone if in that future obstacle is gone, right? So obstacle is gone. So that means the motivation is to do something, hit it or bite it or whatever. This is the action, and the result's supposed to be on this planning stage. We're just hoping for that, and the result's supposed to be this particular future, right? If it's not happening, then we have frustration, whatever. Now, here we've got important things to mention. Where, right? So that was about rage. Now, here we've got complicated thing. For example, boss yelled at you at work, and you've got this negative feeling, right? Negative feeling. And by the hierarchy, boss is on the top, you are at the bottom, so you can't really strike them a lot, right? Now, but you can't really get rid of that thoughts. You've got resentment. So resentment is when you can't really react straight away, right? You don't have power. You don't have enough power, and this is what I mean by winnability. That means like you gonna have resentment in a case when somebody above you can create obstacles for your life chances, and you can't respond in order to stop it. That's one of the cases when resentment happens. And there is another case, also quite interesting. Right, there is another case. Let's say a husband does something bad, husband or wife. Let's put wife there, because husband can still can win, the wife's gonna be a better example. Right, so and I'll explain where the resentment problem is. So let's say wife does something bad to husband, right? Husband. So basically they're on the same level, wife and husband. And husband can't really have ability to respond to respond back, some violence, whatever, with some negative stuff in order to remove the obstacle. But woman is vulnerable by the definition because she is weak, and there could be consequences such as she's gonna stop talking to him and so on and so forth, and he's predicting that and doesn't do the action, right? So what happens there is, in our schema, let me hang on, let me clean this up, right? So in that schema there, let's say it was verbal abuse, right? Verbal abuse, and husband doesn't like it. So the ideal expectation is to remove verbal abuse, right? Remove verbal. For that, he's supposed to do some actions, right? So he's got motivation, and he's got action to do, right? I don't know. I don't mean hit between eyes, but there are different ways of actions husband could do. But for some reason, he understands the consequences are not gonna be pleasant or desired ones, and he decides to do no action, right? Then in this case, instead of anger, he's becoming resentful because he's still having this verbal abuse, constant verbal abuse, but he can't really stop it because the tools he could use in order to stop it could be quite painful or undesirable for them. Or there's another way, for example, is husband has fear that a wife is gonna break social connection, social bond with the husband in that regard, and he fears of that breakage, and hence doesn't really answer to verbal abuse and stuff. So this is when resentment is born, right? And this is the difference between resentment and anger. Okay, let's go further, right? So, nothing on that diagram is broken. The forecast arrives. The beat comes with it. No, the heat comes with it. The expectation reads beatable and reads correctly. The pull forms. The obstacle yields, and the error records that force worked there. The gap closes and the machine switches itself off. Hold on to the picture, because it is the last time in this. It is the last time in this chapter you will see it. I will show it later many times, no problem. Taking but something stronger that cannot be conquered, and not only conquered, but it could be impossible to conquer because of different what's his name, like nuances, let's say, which does not vanish, takes one of 4 exits. Okay. Okay. Moving further. Right. Okay, this is our image again. Right. Oh, come on. Doesn't work, does it? Okay. Look at what goes dark. The forecast still arrives and the feeling still runs at full volume, that part of unchanged, which is why the experience is so unpleasant. Yeah. But the expectation leg returns, no road by force, and from there nothing fires, no pull forms, the action is denied, no result comes back, and nothing is learned. The gap stays open with the heat still on it. For exit is the energy does next. All 4 are downstream of one leg, returning no. Yeah, so you get expectation remains the same, and yes. So what we've got. Right. Submission rage inhibited. Submission rage inhibited. Fear takes the wheel. Shrink, yelled, withdraw. The loop closes back to fear. Cornered far becomes fight. Cornered fear becomes fight, and fight against the unbeatable collapses back to fear. And yeah, suppressed rage, resentments, held down but unresolved. It stops burning fast and starts to smolder. The chronic, grudge-shaped version, denominated in cortisol. Yeah, and nasty thoughts in the head as well. Redirected aggression. You cannot hit up. So you hit down. The rage discharges onto a safe, weaker target. Kick the dog. Sapolsky's baboons do with seconds of losing to a rival. Yeah, you're still angry, but like, and there are children, so yeah, you're yelling at them, especially when market turns wrong way for you. Right. Okay. That's good. Learned helplessness, collapse. Yeah, when you learn that's like nothing I can do, so I just collapse and I'm not gonna do anything. This is thwarting, is repeated and inescapable. Can't win, can't flee, can't do anything. So just depression and death. The approach system shuts down entirely and curdles into the flatness of the system we meet next. Right. We meet next system. Yeah, learned helplessness is a bad thing, isn't it? So the next one is right. Yeah. So you see, if gate is closed, oh come on. Yeah. So yeah. So you see it there. This is the stopping gate. There is no motivation or action afterwards. So you got a submission, resentment, displacement, or collapse. Learned helplessness. So the oldest telling of this is the first murder. Cain's offering is rejected. A blocked goal, right? A blocked goal. A loss of status. And again, okay, I can't stop talking about status, but whatever. And and the rage has an unbeatable target for him, so it discharges the only direction it can, sideways and down onto his brother. He didn't like the God, so to speak, and it was just like talking to God, like why? But because not much he can do against the God, so he's done. that and notice what he is told before the act. Why art thou wroth? Sin lieth at the door, and thou shalt rule over it. The instructions the instruction is not don't feed it, it's master it before it discharges, right? So God tells him, look mate, your thoughts are a bit sadistic, you would probably have to rethink your way of living, but and this the problem there is uh, blocked goal, right? So why is blocked goal? So he was doing some uh, offers or some sacrifices, right? Sacrifices, and expecting something, right? So expecting goods for it, and but he didn't get what he was expecting, and he was worried about his status. So what that means is the ego was quite high, and he was expecting because of that a lot for him for a small sacrifice, right? And this is the ego-driven problem when an object or subject is centers themselves, hence getting in trouble later, right? Because like can't really understand when they are doing mistakes because they don't admit mistakes because well, ego doesn't let them to admit mistakes. Ego is telling them you are perfect. You don't have to. Yeah, and critics is also a painful thing. Okay, going further. And it seems like it was quite common, right? If it's all this, yeah, it's quite common if people have written that in the Bible, explaining in this. Oh, it's so small. How to make it bigger? Who knows? Oh, I just delete it. I did it like that. Right. Yeah. So you see, rage only works downhill. I mean, or on the same level against anything you cannot beat. It does not solve the problem. It just picks a smaller victim, or turns to rot, or gives up. Right. So either you learn you can't really beat it, or you just become a rotten, resentful cunt. Okay. The modern wall has no face. The gate was built with good inputs. Yeah, because we were living in a small society, so always somebody to blame. But yeah, maybe not like that. Because, if lightning strikes you, there's nobody to blame as well. An ancestral obstacle was usually a specific individual physically present or roughly accessible size in a hierarchy you already knew, and the appraisal, can I beat this, was a question with an answer. Right? It was easy to size somebody against you in hunter-gatherer societies. Say, this is quite a big bloke, so I probably shouldn't have things with them, or vice versa. Or this Lilliput, I just bit him with one hand. Almost nothing that blocks modern life meets those conditions, and it falls them in four distinct ways. And let's have a look what those ways are. Right. And yeah, and this is about our modern life, right? Because we are having plenty of emotions, and those emotions are designed to keep us alive in very different conditions. So that's why we have to understand when rage is probably playing against us. So no face. a policy, a waiting list, a form that will not accept your details, a rule nobody's building roads. The circuit demands a target and there isn't one. So the cortex supplies the nearest available human who is almost always a clerk with no power. Yeah, you know, that bureaucracy you got there and say like I'm waiting for a year and a half when it's gonna be ready, and like clerk can't really know because he doesn't really influence anything. Out of rage, the person who is actually wrong you is anonymous or even not anonymous, doesn't matter, about distant through the internet, and you like somebody comments you on Facebook and you get rage and you wanna like have revenge, punch them back, but you can't because they're somewhere half world away. Okay. I think it says the reply box and returns winnable because reply feels like a blow. It is not one, especially on if on that side of the line, professional troll who is just like knows what to do and how extract emotions out of you. Not an agent at all. The door, the machine, the weather. Yeah, an agent. You know, you're supposed to be somebody who wishes you bad, but here at the door, you know, door doesn't wish, does it? Your own body, when it fails you, anger needs somebody who meant it. So he inverts here. My body lets me down, right? He doesn't like or gets sick. What the hell? Find yourself furious at an object that cannot hold an intention, unbeatable but permanent, an institution you must keep dealing with, a condition, work for example, you go to work, don't really like it, that will not reserve a person you cannot leave, repeating, thwarting with no exit is the exact recipe for exit 2. It does not flare, settles, and becomes a relationship. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, let's go further. Right, I don't know. And then the modern amplifier, underlined, which deserves its own line. The internet is the first environment in history that supplies the feeling of winnability at scale. There's always a reply available. There's always somebody smaller to be right at. Always a discharge within reach. So the circuit fires, discharges properly, feels resolved, and nothing about the original obstacle has changed. Yeah, somebody is wrong in the internet because the thing you hear was never the thing you in your way. The loop closes and the wrong gap, which is why it can't run all day and never finish. Read the four exits again and lied, and they stop being taxonomy and start being a description of our ordinary life. Displacement is snapping at the family after a day of being thwarted by people you could not snap at. Resentment is a settled grievance against the institution that will outlive you. Submission is going quiet in meetings. Collapse is what the last one becomes after enough repetitions. One case deserves the ring to itself because it is not the gate misreading a wall, it's the whole machine reconfigured, and it's the most consequential thing this circuit does. Here go the images of schemas, my favorite schemas. I said we would never see that image again, and we will, right? So yeah. So what important there is So you see where it breaks and false expectation. So getting even looks like a terminator, and it never arrives. The reference points backwards, so the gap can only be closed by undoing, right? So going further, so you see there, if we've got expectation undoable by force, so there is no point in having motivation and action. And here goes the explanation. Right, I can't believe I've written that all. Yeah, but that's important to understand. Well, once you understand the difference between rage and anger, and you understand how emotion works, it's quite easy to live life. The hub, okay, so the hub has gone red, and it's the part of to point at. In every other configuration, the agent defends forward state, something it forecasts it will need. Revenge defends a backward one, the way things stood before the wrong becomes the reference, which means the gap can only be closed by undoing, and the undoing of the one operation not available in this universe. The predicted shift has already happened. The expectation reads undoable by force, which is false. You can't, yeah, like in internet, you can't do anything by force, can you? The action strikes harder, the result widens the gap, and then the expensive part. The error is read as too little force rather than wrong target. So the loop escalates instead of correcting, and we are doing that wrong thing over and over again, fighting in the internet, replying stuff. This is why revenge does not stop when it succeeds. Getting even as a terminator that looks available, nameable, apparently one act away, which is exactly what loop starved of off signal is most vulnerable to. But the state it is aimed at in the past, so nothing arriving in the present can ever match it. Every feud in history in this diagram running with no way to close. Right. And the tale that is the rage rather than judgment. The intensity is out of proportion to the obstacle, and the target is almost never the cause. The two travel together. When you find yourself very angry at something small, the size is a clue that the real ball is elsewhere and unhittable. Right? So you become resentful at something or angry at something. Uh, that means like you're angry at something which is not reachable. Rage is a tool for removing somebody who is in your way. Most of what is your way is not somebody, and almost none of it is here. Right. So right, okay, so what we've got is real time break classification and displacement among let me get to a final part of this rage lecture. Get back to recap it, and then that's probably it. So this week, catch it once, just once. Feel the heat rise on a blocked goal. Plan that feeling through. Reply as stung a machine that would not cooperate, and watch the story try to attach. Somebody did this to me and meant it. Don't fight the fire and don't feed the story. Just see the circuit fire and ask the one question: is this an obstacle or an enemy? 9 times out of 10, there was never an enemy at all. The saying is the training. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. not because wrath is a sin, but because it was built for a fight and you could win. And by morning you will see there was no such fight. Rage feels like power against anything you cannot bear. It is the most expensive feeling you own. Still to come, what is left when the fire burns out and the fire is lost for good? When the gold is gone, the thing is taken, and there is no one to punish and nothing to chase, the system underneath every loss, grief. Yeah, talk about grief further, but for now, that's probably it about rage. So, in order to recap, okay, in order to recap there, yeah, escalates, no corrects, okay. Okay, I hope understood what rage and anger is, and other emotions are gonna be next time. So thank you very much for your attention.